Good morning. The reading is from Hebrews chapter 2, verses 10 through 18. In bringing some sons and daughters to glory, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom everything exists, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect, though through what he suffered. Both the one who makes people holy and those who are made holy are of the same family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters. He says, I will declare your name to my brothers and sisters in the assembly. I will sing your praises. And again, I will put my trust in him. And again he says, here I am, and the children of God has given me. Since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might break the power of him who holds the power of death, that is, the devil, and the free, those who all their lives were held in slavery by their fear of death. For surely it is not angels he helps, but Abraham's descendants. For this reason he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, and that he might make atonement for the sins of the people. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. Here ends the reading.
The Holy Gospel according to Matthew, the 18th chapter. He called a little child to him and placed the child among them. And he said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. The gospel of the Lord. You may be seated. I gotta get the fan's got my hair going every which way here. So a little boy is standing by this sign that he sees, a handwritten sign out there that says, puppies for sale. And the gentleman comes out from the house and he says, sir, how much do you want for the puppies? And he says, well, I'm hoping to get $25 a piece. And the little boy, you can see his face just kind of fall at the very thought of that much money. And he says, well, could I at least see the puppies? And he says, sure. So he whistles, and his dog comes around with these bunch of little puppies following her, just kind of falling over each other and leaping and yapping and whatever puppies do. I say that to Danelle because she has a mess of them. And so he bends down to pet the dog, and just as he does, he sees this other puppy coming out from around the back of the house. And it's just kind of limping and coming slow. And he says, sir, what's wrong with that puppy? And he says, well, it was born handicapped. It was born with a disability. And the little boy says, well, he pulls $1 out from his pocket and he says, sir, I want to buy that puppy. He says, I get $1 every week for helping my neighbor take her trash out, and I promise I will give you $1 every week until it's paid off. And he says, well, son, don't you understand that puppy is never going to be able to run and play? And he says, oh, yes, sir. He says, I do understand. And he lifts up his pant leg and he has a brace on his leg. And he says, and that puppy's going to need somebody who understands. That's what our reading's about. That's the bottom line right there. In bringing all of us, sons and daughters, into relationship with God, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom each one of us exists, should make the pioneer of our salvation, Jesus, perfect through what he suffered. Both the one who makes people holy, Jesus, and those who are made holy, All of us are of the same family. And Jesus is not ashamed to call us brothers and sisters. For this reason, he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest and servant to God, and that he might make atonement for the sins of the people. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. I can just see Jesus going to God one day and saying, they're going to need somebody who understands. They're going to need somebody who's been there. They're going to need somebody who's been tempted and understand how hard it is when the body has desires, when the body is hungry and thirsty, when the body is tired. They need somebody who understands that. They need somebody who has mourned, who has seen death of loved ones. They need somebody who knows what it feels like. They're going to need somebody who has suffered. Okay, so we could sit and say, well, God has never had, or Jesus never had to go through this, this, or this, but I'll tell you what, I never had to go through being beaten, being spit at. I've never had to go through being hung on a cross. They have to have somebody that understands. Send me, God. Send me so that I can suffer what they suffer, so I can feel what they feel, so I can know, so I can be there for them as they are grown up to be like us. Send me. And that's why Jesus came. He came so that we could know that we're not alone in this, that we walk the same path that Jesus walked. He came so that while he's sitting next to God, he can say to God, this is how they feel. This is what it feels like when the body is in pain. This is what it feels like. This is what goes through the mind when you're in need. This is what happens when Satan tempts. And then I particularly liked it, the message. Peterson says that he took death into himself and made it holy. What a great vision. Death is not something to be feared. It's no longer the tool that Satan can use against us to threaten us with. Jesus took death into himself and made it holy and pure. He redeemed the very thing that Satan used against us. As I was looking some of this up on the internet, as I usually do, I also found a story by Fred Buechner. One of the things that I have learned that I missed from not having a traditional education in seminary is I don't know all the names of these theologians. But thank God for the internet. I'm learning them. And he's got some wonderful, wonderful books out there. And this quote is from a book called Now and Then. Buddha sits enthroned beneath the bo tree in the lotus position. His lips are faintly parted in the smile of one who has passed beyond every power in earth or heaven to touch him. He who loves 50 has 50 woes. He who loves 10 has 10 woes. He who loves none has no woes, he has said. His eyes are closed. Christ, on the other hand, stands in the Garden of Gethsemane, angular, beleaguered. His face lost in shadows so that you can't even see his lips, and before all the powers in earth or heaven, he is powerless. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you, he has said. his eyes are also closed. The difference seems to me this: the suffering that Buddha's eyes close out is the suffering of the world that Christ's eyes close in and hollow. It is an extraordinary difference. Sometimes when I hear that love one another as I have loved you, I think, but you don't know this person, Lord. You don't know what this person did to me. Jesus knows. That's the whole point. Jesus knows. And he has called us to walk in the same footsteps that he walked. And not to walk them alone, but to walk them beside him, with him telling the Father what it's like to be you. Amen.